Most people think the bloodiest battles in World War II happened on beaches or in cities. But hidden inside these quiet German woods lies a place American soldiers once called the death factory of the Bloody Ruhr. And today I'm going back to where one of America's darkest nightmares in Europe unfolded. Welcome to Hürtgen Forest.
And the terrifying part, this forest can still kill you. Before we begin, a very serious warning. The Hürtgen Forest is not just history. Even today there are still unexploded ordnance, dangerous remnants of war and areas that can be deadly if you leave official path. For me, Hürtgen Forest lived somewhere deep inside memory long before I ever stood there. Back in the Call of Duty 1 days, Hurtgen was one of these maps burned into my brain.
It's been 3 weeks. We're in the Hürtgen Forest now, clearing it so the convoy can get to the Rhine.
The Americans initially wanted to push through toward Düren and eventually into Cologne using large armored divisions across the flatter plains. But they quickly discovered something dangerous. The Germans controlled the Ruhr dams, and there was a very real fear that Nazi forces could destroy them and flood entire regions, slowing down the Allied advance and create chaos. So the mission changed. Before advancing further, the Allies needed to secure this region around Schmidt. What followed became months of brutal fighting. American troops pushed through parts of the Siegfried Line, Germany's western defense wall, and then became trapped in an unforgiving battlefield of forests, artillery, freezing weather, mud, exhaustion, and relentless resistance.
Da ist er ja. Hallo.
Today, Julia, Marcel and I are hiking along former German defensive lines, crossing through old American positions, eventually looping back toward Fossenach. And strangely enough, it starts beautifully. Small little hiking path, quiet streams, wooden walkways, almost charming.
A real spring.
And in some sections, wooden pathways have been built specifically so people don't accidentally step onto dangerous ground. This sentence alone is hard to process. And somewhere between the trees, I found myself wondering, what did this look like in winter? American soldiers setting up camp. Cold hands, wet boots, Christmas approaching. Young men trying to sleep while artillery echoed through the dark. And then the first bunker, destroyed, flooded, almost swallowed by the earth.
So we're going into an old bunker from World War II. Let's see.
Now look, if you know me, you know I used to love exploring lost places. Apparently that part of me never fully retired. So yes, I carefully peeked slightly off path for a quick look. Carefully, very carefully, because this forest has a way of reminding you that curiosity without wisdom is not bravery. And honestly, I enjoy staying alive. That feels like a solid long-term strategy. At this point, hunger had entered the conversation in a very serious way.
Well, now we make ourselves a delicious tofu döner.
My life occasionally feels like a very confusing independent film.
Heavens, well. Nice.
Then Marcel and I somehow turned things into a ridiculous little rock challenge, because apparently men can turn almost anything into a competition. War history, heavy emotions, forest trauma, sure. But stack rocks? Now it's serious. And right in the middle of that, hail started crashing down. So we paused, and near one large pile of stones, one particular rock caught my attention. I don't know why. Sometimes something simply speaks to you quietly, so I picked it up, not knowing yet that it would later become something important. And then I did something I absolutely do not recommend.
That there's a slight possibility that there are still mines in this ground, but I don't care. I want to watch that bunker that's in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, hopefully I won't die.
Marcel, wo ist Phil? Haben wir ihn verloren im Wald?
But only after researching extensively whether the specific area had been cleared and was considered safe. Please don't take this as encouragement. This is not tourism. This is not urban exploration.
So, we are literally walking through a battlefield, and some of these holes in the ground, someone's last cover.
Our first stop, Bunker 100. The 100th bunker in the section of the secret line.
Hey, how's it going? Two influencer on the tracks of World War II.
Ja, und hier haben wir mal beschauen Geld.
Oh, wow. That was a close one.
And here reality quickly checked my enthusiasm. One wrong movement and a steel beam nearly introduced itself directly into my forehead.
I hereby declare this bunker property of the United States of America.
Ruins don't care how confident you are. Respect matters. Preparation matters. And honestly, some adventures shouldn't be copied just because they look cinematic on YouTube. Some climbs just weren't worth the risk for me.
Whoa, whoa. Oh, super slippery. Not today.
Marcel, however, was feeling significantly more adventurous, which is another way of saying Marcel occasionally negotiates with gravity more confidently than I do.
%. Go for it. Go Forest.
Da wollen wir jetzt rein.
Da wollen wir jetzt rein.
Cool. Schauen wir mal, ne?
Oh,
Das ist voll gut.
oh wow.
Hier fängt es an, lustig zu werden. Wenn man hier ist. Ah ja.
Boah, das ist sogar noch die Farbe. Grün? Die Farbe hat ein bisschen gestochen. Wow. Guck mal, hier ist der Punkt, wo wir eben waren.
Ja, genau. Luftschacht.
Oh mein Gott, was ist denn da? Hast du das gesehen hier?
Nee.
Doch, komm mal, geh mal ein bisschen rein mit der Kamera.
Und damit gehen wir zurück ins Studio.
Looks like an evil face.
Eventually we reached another bunker. This one dropped deep underground, dark, wet, uncomfortable. And I developed a very practical survival habit. Touch every visible steam beam.
Da kann man einmal auf der anderen Seite perfekt rein. Da musst du dich nicht drücken. Das ist krass. Wow.
Ja, ne?
So ein richtiger Skistand hier noch, ne? Wow. Ja, ja. Ja, guck mal. Von wegen auf der Straße leben als Penner, oder?
Ja, ich schlaf hier am Schlafsack.
Apropos, wir haben ihn mitgenommen. Wir wollten dir was sagen.
Sometimes laughter isn't disrespectful. Sometimes it's survival, even in places carrying enormous grief. And grief existed here on all sides. Young American soldiers, young German soldiers, many barely adults.
Look how cool an aperture MC is. Wow. Ja.
Wir haben doch nichts zu essen.
Ich schlaf da.
Von wem keine Einnehmlichkeit, Julia? Alles in die Hand.
Kleine Wiener, little Wiener.
When the rain stopped, we kept moving. Photos, laughter, breathing room. Because if you don't occasionally let light back into dark places, darkness has a strange way of staying longer than invited.
Ich glaube, wir lassen es sein, das sieht echt nicht so sicher aus.
Ja.
Ich bin zwar waghalsig, aber nicht dumm. Hürtgenwald, seht ihr? Hürtgen Forest.
Ja.
Und das ist das Memorial, was vom Kapitol in Washington DC ist.
Eventually we reached the area where the fighting intensified, where armored divisions pushed forward, where attempts to encircle Allied forces turned this forest into something horrifying. And here we stayed strictly on official path. No exceptions, because these areas are not guaranteed to be fully cleaned, and suddenly the weight of this place became impossible to ignore.
Hey, ja, hallo.
How many young men stood exactly here, terrified, cold, trying to be brave, fighting against Nazi tyranny, fighting for freedom?
Hey Marcel,
Hey, Phil.
we just reached the 7-mile milestone out of 10.
Good.
How do you feel?
Overwhelmed.
And then, the moment I probably remember most from this entire journey. The hike is even named after him, and suddenly I understood why I had carried that stone all day.
His name was Robert Cahow, a volunteer who tried to save wounded on the battlefield over there. And he never made it home. He disappeared for decades into the forest. And somewhere between Germany and memory, America forgot him. Thank you for your service, Robert.
That stone belonged to Robert now, so I left it there. A small gesture, quiet, human, and standing there. I found myself thinking, you were found here and brought back to the United States. And maybe what I'm still searching for is not my resting place, but the blooming season of my life. And somehow in that moment I felt connected to your sacrifice. Not because I could ever understand war, but because I understand struggle, responsibility, the hope that suffering means something. Some things don't disappear just because time passes. Some dangers stayed buried, waiting for people to forget. And that's why I will never treat fascism or Nazism like they are just opinions in a marketplace of ideas. The dead here deserve better than our forgetfulness. And maybe that's the real question I want to leave you with. What responsibility comes with the freedom we inherited from sacrifices we never had to make? Because history doesn't only ask to be remembered, sometimes it asks us who we are becoming. And next time, we keep walking deeper into stories that history almost buried.